I've been watching on social media. The SEC goes to an 8-game, or going to keep the 8-game schedule, kind of like a bridge. I just want you to tell everybody your thoughts on the whole situation.
First and foremost, it's as I mentioned on a tweet last week, to whom much is given, much is expected. Okay, and the Southeastern Conference has been given a lot. It's given its schools a lot. Only one conference gets more money from television. We know who that is. The television deal was made almost 5 years ago for $300 million. They haven't even executed the television deal yet. And now you've got a group of underling presidents. When I say underling, I mean schools that are just battling to get into the bowls that they play at 6-6 that are now taking over and making sure that they keep 8 games for fear that one extra loss could cost them a bowl opportunity. Boy, you talk about backwards thinking. At a time when the SEC is labeling itself as the It Just Means More League, you just sent all the wrong images and impressions. The commissioner who during COVID, I gave him as much applause as anybody in media. There was no doubt that Greg Sankey looked like a true leader during COVID. He looked like a true politician, anything but a leader down in Destin. They spent, the SEC, 15 plus months getting everybody in the media aware and everybody in the SEC aware of who the 3 teams would be. Here's how we're going to trot out the 9-game schedule. And given the fact that you're going to a 12-team playoff in 2 years after the 25 season, absolutely no question you have to play 9 games if you want your 9-3 team that's going to be on the cusp of being 10th, 11th, or 12th, the kind of resume needed to combat other 9-3s in conferences that are playing one more conference game than you, which is basically everybody. Okay? So they took a giant step backward, and I'm going to call him out. He looked about as bad in leadership this past week in Destin as he did when he was dealing with the Florida LSU flap. Remember that scheduling fiasco between Joe Oliva, the then LSU AD, and Jeremy Foley, the then Florida AD, and they put him out on CBS with Vern and Gary to try to do an interview, and he couldn't answer anything because the presidents and the ADs of those 2 schools were clearly pushing him around. He did not look like a commissioner that day, and he did not look like a commissioner last week in Destin. And I'm just, look, if you're telling me this guy's the most powerful man in college football, I've got great expectations. And Greg Sankey is a good man. He wants to play 9 games, but he won't even say it publicly. He wanted 9 games, and everybody knew it. And I couldn't get over, the frothing at the mouth that was taking place on Finebaum's show because Paul couldn't ask the direct questions either for fear that his bat phone was going to ring. So he's asking all these guys from websites to tell him what he already knew. And that is that the Southeastern Conference presidents had their hand out wanting more money from ESPN. Why should ESPN pay them more money? They have a $300 million deal that they made in 2019 or 20, was actually consummated, I think, in 19. Hell, that's almost, well, it is 4 years ago. It's about to be 5. I mean, it doesn't go into play until not this fall, but next fall. And they're saying for one more game, you got to give us another, what, $50 million? Really?
I think it was like $5 million per team or something like that. $5 to $7 million per team.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Here's what happened, and no one wants to say this. No one wants to say it. He made that television deal too early. He didn't he, being the commissioner, made that TV deal way too early. The Big Ten is going to make more. They are making more. And they'll probably make even more for a long period of time. Because he chose to make a deal 4.5 years ago. The money was, they stopped the presses there. They brought Laura Rutledge out and did a huge bulletin. Breaking news, we got a new TV deal. Well, 4 years has passed. The market has changed. And the Big Ten, that deal dwarfs the SEC per team. It does. So now they're saying, well, it's TV's fault. They don't want to give us any more money. Excuse me for defending the suits and the overlords of Burbank and Bristol to ESPN, but they've already made that deal.
Yeah.
Why should they give them more money when they've already got to carry every game they play? I mean, that's a complete joke.
I'm with you.
Absolute joke. Looking to play the blame game. Let's pass it off to TV. It's those crooked guys in suits on the West Coast and the East Coast that are the reason for this problem. We're going to. Oh, by the way, it's just a one-off. We'll only do this for 1 year. Really? Are you sure? Are you sure you're going to be able to do that? Okay. I'm sorry. And the big losers here are the fans. The fans that are paying the exorbitant amounts of money that they pay to see Western Kentucky, Middle Tennessee, Furman, the Citadel, Savannah State, Jacksonville State, whoever else that's a state that's not a state, that's going to come in and play a game rather than a conference game being played on your home schedule. And to my friends in Georgia who think I hate them and think that, oh, God, because he threw out in his interview with Finebaum, well, 65-7 tells me all I need to know. That is not what a commissioner says. Throwing TCU under the bus the way he did, throwing Mike Oresco, the commissioner of the American Conference, for fighting for his league and saying, well, I'm not the one that said P6. That was very uncommissioner-like, very it just means more like.
Yeah. And Tim, the thing that I'm looking at is I agree with you. Believe it or not, you know me. I know that I don't think you can dispute the SEC is the king of college football right now. I don't, and that's not even the argument. You have to honor your deal. You made your deal, and you have to honor it. Now, there comes a point in time where there's some renegotiations and things like that, but this just isn't one of them. I wouldn't pay you more money on top of the deal that we already made for adding an extra game within the conference that I made the deal with. And if it was just about, I understand some schools in 2024 saying, hey, we don't want to get out of some of these games that we already have in the non-conference. If it was just about that, then I would understand it. But the schools, I think this is a mindset thing. And this is what I think shows you what separates the big dogs from the medium and little dogs in the SEC. I would look at it as, you know what, that ninth conference game, because we're going to start hearing a term in this 12-team college football playoff, the bubble team. It's a bubble team. Yeah. I look at it as it gives me, what do bubble teams at the end of college basketball season need? What do they have to have? Strength of schedule. You don't want those last 4 games to be against bottom dwellers. You want to have a chance to go beat somebody that can help you improve, get another quad 1 win. I look at it as giving myself another opportunity to be able to win a game, to either make a bowl game or get into the playoff. It's just all about mindset to me, and I think that's what separates. That's the problem that I have. I know the conference is tough. I get it, and guess what? You go to 9 conference games, my ass ain't scheduling Oregon week 1. I'm not scheduling Miami. I'll play some cupcakes outside of that because it's a 9-game conference schedule. So it balances itself out. I don't like the mindset of I'm afraid to play teams in my own conference. And that goes for everybody that was against it. Look at what did Kirby say? I don't even care about this argument. Let's play. Let me roll my team out there. And I don't blame him for Oklahoma getting taken off the schedule this year and then looking really weak because they're coming to the SEC. So that's my biggest problem. The mindset of some of these teams of, oh, well, I'm afraid we're not going to make the Cheez-It Doritos Bowl or whatever like that. Man, screw that. That may give you that win to bump you into that 12th spot or that 11th spot. It's just, big dogs bark loud. Stop acting like a puppy. One of the reasons we're always excited because we drink Black Rifle coffee in the morning. It is the #1 coffee in the world. And I don't care what you'll say, I die on that hill. Father's Day is coming up quickly. As I was thinking about what I'm getting, for my not father who's alive anymore, but there's a special person in my life who I like to give things to on Father's Day, who was a father figure to me. I thought there's no better gift than Black Rifle coffee. We know how busy dads are. He doesn't always have time to brew coffee the traditional way each morning. That's why he's going to love Black Rifle Coffee's ready-to-drink can. It's perfect for people who need their coffee quickly, and each can contains 200 milligrams of caffeine and is available in a variety of delicious flavors like Vanilla Bomb. It explodes deliciousness, salted caramel, mocha, and vanilla caramel. They're a veteran-founded coffee company operated by principled men and women who honor those who protect, defend, and support our country. We just had Memorial Day. With every purchase you make, they give back. So stop running out of coffee and sign up for a coffee club subscription. Have Black Rifle coffee delivered straight to your door on a schedule. Go through 40 pounds a week of it here at Daily Wire. So save money and drink America's coffee. Go to blackriflecoffee.com. Use promo code BOOSTER at checkout. That's BOOSTER for 10% off your one-time purchase or first coffee club order. That's blackriflecoffee.com. Promo code BOOSTER for 10% off. You can also find it in grocery stores and convenience stores near you, but you want to get it online to help us out. What flavor you got,
The
David?
Headless Horseman's Roast, a.k.a. pumpkin spice, because it's never too early to start dreaming about the fall.
That's exactly right.
Ichabod Crane over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, little power llama. Llama with guns on it.
Yeah.
And here's some coffee, too.
Grow up. Great stuff. BlackRifleCoffee.com, promo code BOOSTER.
Well, here's the deal. Okay. They put it to a vote, and then they come out with this, we're unified crap. It's all spin. It's all spin. Mark Keenum, the president of Mississippi State, is one of the brightest men in intercollegiate athletics. And without him, I don't know that we could have solved the problem of staying with 4 and going to 12. The presidents did that deal. The commissioners didn't. I'm really dissatisfied with a lot of what's taken place with the commissioners, their inability to be collegial and work together for the greater good. And this is an example of it. When you got name calling taking place and pettiness and arrogance on display, which I thought were items that were exhibited by arguably the most powerful man in college football, Greg Sankey. Again, as I said, to whom much is given, much is required. And he didn't meet the bar, in my opinion. And it's not like other conferences don't have issues. Clearly, the Big Ten has issues. Tony Petitti is dealing with a few presidents, 3 of them, who apparently have a problem playing at night. Okay, Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State have a problem playing at night in November. Hey, fellas, you better grow up. That money, those coffers, that's coming in from television. You're going to have to deal with that at some point down the road. But that's another story for another day. It's just the whole texture of it. It smacks of massive provincialism and arrogance. Okay, we're the SEC. We can do whatever we want. And I got to tell you, in my many years growing up in this conference and growing up in the state of Louisiana, I've dealt with he's an SEC guy. That's why he's saying this. And you guys know, because you listened to me and watched me during the time that I worked at CBS and maybe a little bit at ESPN. At least you saw some videos. I will carve my knife in every direction.
Yeah.
When necessary. I simply say what I see. And what I saw last week in Destin was not the kind of leadership that could go up on Capitol Hill for a little more than a photo op and try to get something done for the real problem, which we know is the portal and NIL working in concert. And they're going to go up there in a couple of weeks, or less than a couple of weeks, for a photo op. And that's all it's going to be, because your commissioner is no different than those politicians. Absolutely no different than those politicians. And we got to get the leaders. And I think that Greg can still be one of the greatest and biggest voices in college football. He should be. This was weak. This was a weak showing from the commissioner of the SEC. And let's just tell the media and expect them to take their marching orders and run with it, which for the most part has happened. Now, they've gotten more pushback from those outside the ESPN world. Okay, a lot of people, not just me, a lot of people have blown back on this, and they should. But we're living in a world of images and impressions, and this is a bad image for college football before these guys go up and ask for help from Congress so that they can get their real issues fixed. And this was another example, too, of why we need a czar for college football, why we need someone looking out for the greater good. This was a provincial move. It was a greedy move, and it was based on placating to a group of presidents that shouldn't have that kind of influence. If Mike Slive, God rest his soul, were alive, those presidents would have been in lockstep with their commissioner. The fact that they felt like they could push this and make sure it stayed at 8 tells me they deem him as a weak leader. Yeah. They won't say it, but they deem him as a weak leader.
2 things on that, Tim. One, is there an argument to be made that if you're television partner, in this case ESPN, isn't going to pay you more money, then from a negotiating standpoint, it makes sense to stay at 8 games rather than provide an additional 9th game until you can get that additional revenue in, just from a negotiating standpoint. And 2, on the logistics side of this, like, if Texas and Oklahoma are coming into the SEC, which they are next season, how many more teams can you expand to until you have to expand the schedule, or else you risk not, identifying a true champion within the conference?
Well, I mean, that's the reason everyone anticipated it was going to be 16. It was sold to us. It was hyped to us. The SEC sent out the messages. There were leaks to media all the time over the last 15 plus months about this. We know who the 2 primary rivals are. We know who everybody knew. And then suddenly the narrative changed about the time they got their scuba gear ready off the Gulf of Mexico. I mean, people were shocked that this was happening early in the week. And then by the end of the week, it was like, oh, it's a foregone conclusion. Yeah, this is really not a surprise. Well, you know how the drive-by media works. And once again, their comeback is, we're the big dog. We can do whatever the hell we want to do. Okay, that's fine. You are the big dog. You've won more titles. You've hoisted more crystals than anybody. But you know what? When you fail, you fail. And this was, in my opinion, a classic fail. The bottom line is, yeah, ESPN's going to pay the money because they've got to carry every game. But this should have been thought about, needing extra money, when they allowed their commissioner to do a deal for television 4 years out.
Yeah.
That's bad business. Okay. I'm here to tell you, because I have the information. Okay. A lot of other networks would have been interested in bidding on the SEC rights back in 2019. They could have gotten more money than they ultimately did get from ESPN if they had just put it up for bid. Greg Sankey chose not to talk with any other television executives. Remember that spin? We're going to stay with ESPN because we want to deal with one company, one entity. They can help us from a scheduling standpoint. Remember all that? It's much more convenient this way. And no, that's bad business. You should have opened this up for bidding. What opens up? When the bidding opens up, it drives the price up. It's capitalism at work.
For sure.
And ESPN did due diligence, made the best deal that they could. And to go back to them and say, this week, and they did it, hush, hush, in the hallways. Well, we probably do it if ESPN gave us more money, but they're not going to do it.
Yeah.
Well, oh, by the way, you're obviously oblivious to the world around you. ESPN is having massive cuts. Okay. Over 7,000 people are losing their jobs because Disney, the corporation, said, you know what, we got to do this, even though ESPN is the most viable portion of the Disney company financially. They're oblivious to this. The SEC couldn't care less about those issues. All they want is their money, greed, and provincialism at work.
Yeah, the SEC, they have touched more crystal than Jesse Pinkman. What do you got over there, B?
You done, Dave? I
Yes.
got another. All right, yeah, I'm going to go to Swanee, Tim. $5 donation. He just wants to tell you, hashtag for Tim Brando. Thank you for representing the 318 so well. You are Northeast Louisiana royalty. Hashtag Funro Monroe.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. I really do appreciate that.
Let's go to Travis Elrod. He wants to know, will the ACC survive long term, and are we heading to only 4 power conferences?
I don't think that we're headed to the 4 power conferences as quickly as people would like to think. I do believe, based on what's happening in the Pac-12, that the Big 12 is going to continue to expand. I think realignment. And remember, all that with USC and UCLA happened when last year, fellas? You remember the weekend? It was 4th of July weekend.
Mm-hmm.
About a month from now, there will be more decisions made. I felt when Deion Sanders took the job at Colorado, he felt like Colorado might opt for the Big 12. I really do. And I believe that there's a very good chance that not only will the Buffaloes go to the Big 12, but so too will Utah, so too will the Arizona schools. And I think there's a very good chance now, solely because of the travel schedules of the non-revenue producing sports, that the Big Ten could expand as well, and Oregon and Washington somehow find their way in there. When that happens, I don't know. But if I'm George Kliavkoff, I'm really concerned. Clock's still ticking. No TV deal as yet. And Brett Yormark doesn't seem to care about fixed numbers, nor he's got control of his presidents too.
Yeah,
okay. If they're bringing in more teams, those teams are going to get the same amount of money. And I think all those presidents are going to be in lockstep with him. I think the Big 12 has a chance to become a very, very strong third conference amongst what is deemed the Power Five. And I too want to get rid of that. I think we just need to call it Division I college football. But the ACC has real issues when you have 7 teams wanting out. But here's the problem. And again, it comes back down to poor TV dealing. And John Swofford was a good man. I knew him well. He was very good to me in the time that I covered ACC basketball. But that was that was a terrible deal. His presidents wanted a conference network to keep up with the Joneses and the SEC. ESPN didn't want to do that. ESPN finally decided they'd do it with one caveat. We're only going to pay you this for your football package. And those teams are at $12 million per team. Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
They're going,
might as well give them $10.
They're in trouble, big time trouble. And I think the only saving grace really for the ACC financially would be to try to help in any way they possibly can the Pac-12.
Yeah.
In any way they possibly can, try to help what's left of the Pac-12.
Hey, everybody on YouTube, appreciate you guys joining us. Make sure you do us a favor. Hit that subscribe button, turn that notification bell on, and hit that like button if you're watching this video. Also, we go live every weekday morning, 7:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern. That's 6:30 a.m. to 8 a.m. Central. So give us a follow. We do live calls Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and include the chat a ton.